Hey guys, it's finally time for the next Broken Sky chapter, chapter 5. This is going to be in Luminous's view, and I've been really excited for it. I wish I could have got it out sooner, but life has been super crazy and I haven't had time to record. So let's get into it. Chapter 5, Luminous. Luminous walked out of the throne room. His heart was pounding, and he wanted to punch something. But he walked calmly amongst the council members that were also leaving the room. He looked up. There were dragons that had gathered around the throne room, waiting for news. Everyone wanted to know what would happen with the Shadow Claws. Someone bumped his wing. Luminous flinched, then saw the familiar dark red scales. Reyna. He couldn't bear to smile, but he was glad to see his friend. Reyna smiled at him. "Hey, you okay? What's the news?" she asked, walking alongside him. Luminous sighed, curling his claws. "My father has decided to declare war on the Shadow Claws." Reyna stopped. "What?" she gasped. "Just for 30 seconds of the black sky?" "Yes, I don't know why he's so determined to fight them." Luminous leapt out the window and lifted into the air. Reyna followed. Luminous headed for the desert. "Hey," Reyna bumped his wing. "You'll figure it out." "Yep," he sighed. They flew in silence for a few minutes. "He's been so angry ever since ever since his mother's death, really." Luminous clenched his talons. "He won't listen to reason. He only listens to a few of the council members, and of course I'm just his disappointment son that was never supposed to be the heir." "Well, for what it's worth, I'm glad you're the heir," Reyna said softly. "What's that supposed to mean? Are you glad Oro's dead?" Luminous snapped. Reyna recoiled, jerking away from him. Luminous let out a huff, looking away. After a moment, he took a deep breath. "I'm sorry. I know that's not what you meant. I'm just frustrated," he said gruffly. "It's fine. Do you want me to leave you alone?" "No." They flew in silence for at least an hour, eventually returning to the palace as the sun was beginning to set. They touched down on a balcony. Luminous stared at the sun. He took a deep breath, sending out a wordless question. The sun didn't seem to hear him, or at least it had nothing to say. Luminous supposed the sun didn't care for matters like this. It wasn't like any war could affect the sun. "Are you going to eat?" Reyna bumped his shoulder, startling Luminous. He turned away from the sun to look at her. Probably not," Luminous sighed. He couldn't bear to eat anything right now. "You should, though." He bumped her wing with his own. Reyna nodded and lifted into the air, heading towards the east side of the palace where the kitchens were. Luminous looked back at the sun. One more day. He would go see Lumi again tomorrow night, and then everything would be a bit better then. Everything became better when Luminous saw her face, her understanding eyes, when he wrapped his wings around her cool scales, which were always smooth and smelled like lilacs and night air, exactly how he would imagine the moon to be if it weren't in the sky. Luminous sighed again. How could he miss a dragon so much after only 2 days? The next day dragged on slowly. Luminous attended a meeting, ate breakfast, attended another meeting, was there with his father when Beam wrote a letter to declare war, begged his father not to declare war, attended another meeting, read through some messages from around the kingdom, tried to convince his father that war wasn't necessary, and then he ate dinner and got the tiniest bit of sleep and finally flew towards the glade, landing on the edge of it. He walked towards the stream, sitting down next to it. "You're here," Lumi emerged from behind the trees. Luminous stepped over the stream. He wrapped his wings around Lumi, and she leaned into his chest. They stood like that for a few minutes. Then Lumi sat back and looked up at Luminous. "How has it been?" she asked. "Fine, sorta. It's okay, at least," Luminous sighed. He paused. He really didn't want to tell Lumi about the war. He hated to worry her, but she would know soon anyways. "My father has declared war on the Shadow Claws," he growled. Lumi gasped. This was what Luminous hated, the little crinkle in between her eyes, her mouth slightly open in shock and worry. "Really?" she gasped. "Yeah, he's so determined to blame the Shadow Claws. We don't even know if it was them that turned the sky dark." He curled his claws, lowering his voice. "I know he's angry because of what happened with Oro. I am too, but there are innocent dragons who are going to get caught in this crossfire. Gosh, that was twice mentioning Oro in one day, after not speaking about him in months." I'm sorry." Lumi took his talon in her own, tangling their claws together. You'll figure it out. There will be a way to make your father see reason. There will be a way to fix this. She sounded so sure. Did you talk to the sun? Sorta. It doesn't seem to care, though. Our wars aren't important to the sun. Luminous huffed. He kinda wished they were. Then the sun would help him. Lumi was quiet for a while. What happened to Oro? She blurted. Luminous looked down at her. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't mean to say that. You don't have to tell me. Just forget I asked. She put a talon over her face. It's fine. Luminous gently took her talon off her face. He took a deep breath. Did he really want to tell her? He trusted Lumi completely, and she should know, but he didn't like talking about it. Me and him were out on a scouting mission near the Shadow Claw border, and we were attacked by some Shadow Claw criminals. I was young. His throat had a lump in it, making his voice come out thick. Oro tried to protect me, and he did. He swallowed. He scared them off, but one of them, Luminous, closed his eyes, tears welling in them. One of them had wounded him. That was an understatement. Oro had been so covered in blood that he had looked red instead of orange. He died from his wounds before we could get back to the palace. Luminous looked at his claws. Oh, my love. Luminous put her arms around his neck and pulled Luminous close. He buried his snout in her shoulder, trying not to completely break down, though tears still dripped off his snout and onto Lumi's scales. Luminous didn't normally cry when talking about his brother, but he was so tired and stressed from everything that had been going on. He leaned closer to Lumi, sitting down so she wasn't holding his weight, and he cried. Luminous blinked. Lumi was shaking him awake. He didn't remember falling asleep, but he must have in Lumi's arms. We need to go. I'm sure your father will be expecting you back, Lumi said quietly. Luminous stretched, then stood up. Okay, he touched snouts with Lumi. Goodbye, my love. Bye. Lumi squeezed his talon. Luminous spread his wings and lifted into the air. He did a quick turn and waved to Lumi before speeding back towards the palace. As he flew, he thought about Oro. Luminous's brother had been amazing. When their mother died, Oro had been the dragon who had kept Luminous going. To have somebody that loved him, really loved him, after their mother died, had been everything. Luminous sighed. The 2 weeks after Oro's death had been the worst of his life. Not only had Luminous been stricken with grief and had been crying half the time, but his father had blamed him for Oro's death, saying that if Luminous had been a better fighter, then Oro would still be alive. As if Luminous didn't blame himself enough already. Beam had sneered at Luminous every chance he got, until finally, after about 2 weeks, they fell into a sort of understanding. Beam wouldn't snap at Luminous, and Luminous would fade into the background. Of course he had attended meetings and such, but other than that, Luminous didn't go near Beam. The day Oro died, the day Luminous told Beam what had happened, that was the day Luminous had lost his father's love. Oh gosh, I forgot. I haven't read that chapter in a while until just now. I forgot how... I love traumatizing my characters. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I think every character so far gets... Well, actually, I'm going to give you guys a little spoiler. If you don't want it, click off the video, I guess. Reina doesn't actually get very much trauma. She has loving parents. Isn't that amazing? I have a character that has a loving parents, and I think she has a sister. I don't remember. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she has a loving sister that doesn't die. She gets, I guess, some kind of trauma from, like, fighting in the war, because she's a soldier, but she doesn't have any, like, major trauma. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to post the next chapter sometime soon. Yeah. Alright, I've said before, I don't know how to edit videos.